And welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret UCF Track and Field Team Preview Show. I am Bryson Turner, and of course, with me is UCF Track and Field Head Coach Dana Boone. Coach, how are you doing this evening today? The season's getting underway quite soon.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Just getting ready for this first competition. Yeah.
I'm excited to be talking to you this early on in the calendar year. Usually we get end up talking before the outdoor season, but this
Mm.
time around we managed to talk a little bit before the indoor season. So this is a nice little change of pace.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, glad to be here.
So let's go ahead and talk about this indoor season, shall we? The first track and field season in the post Renaya Jones era, and I always feel like you never really know, sometimes you never really know the impact of people until after they're gone and the legacy they leave behind in their wake from other people.
Yeah.
So when you
Yeah.
come back this season, what has it been like not having Renaya there, but yet what kind of maybe impact has she still had on this team even without her presence?
I mean, that's funny. I definitely have addressed the team as letting them know, hey, this is the post Renaya era. This is now we have to see what this team is made of, and someone will have to emerge as a future star and someone who's going to write history as she once did. Obviously, her impact is always felt, and even in her absence, it's felt. But I do believe the team is, we have some very good competitors that can step up and maybe not, walk into her shoes immediately, but I definitely think that there's room for someone to grow into that position. Renaya still keeps in touch. I talked to her a few weeks ago and everything like that. And she's still in our little group me. All the former athletes stay in our group me. They like to stay in there and cheer the team on. So once a night, always a night.
Oh, that's nice. So of course, not only Renaya made it to the Olympic trials last outdoor season, but Kyle Williams and Shira Collins did as well, and they are back for one more go around, at least as an indoor
Yeah.
athlete. So what was it like for them to come back for at least the indoor season?
I appreciate that both of them wanted to be here, to not transfer and say, hey, I'm going to go somewhere else. But hey, just doesn't feel right if I'm not able to come back and be a knight. So you want those kids to come back and be a part of your program. So we've got one season and hopefully they'll leave an impact. And that's been the goal. That's been the message is to, you got this one season, your veterans, to the national championship, you need to find your way there, and do big things. So hopefully they'll leave a lasting impact this season, and help lay the way for the future of the Knights.
I remember Renaya was told me once that the indoor track and field championship is the hardest NCAA championship to make. So, what do you think those two would need? Those two who have not made an indoor championship before need to do in order to make it?
Well, I mean, obviously they got to show up and they got to run. Do they have the ability? Yes, they do. And Renaya is absolutely correct in that statement. The indoor championship is the hardest championship to make. And but I believe on any given day anything is possible. So they have the ability. They just got to get up there and trust themselves and trust their training and go out there and get it done. I feel like with all the experience that they've had going to the outdoor championship several years, going to the Olympic trials, there should be no pressure, no fear, no anything. And now it's time to just line up and get it done.
Speaking of the Olympic trials, Shira Collins getting a top 10 in the triple jump in that event. Pretty good momentum to go into your last indoor track season with that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's the plan. That's the hope. You hope that you bring that level of experience and expertise to the collegiate championship. But the most important thing is taking advantage of every opportunity that you have. And we need to start off in a good place. We need to start off with a PR and build on those things. So that's the best that we can hope for.
So, as far as for the rest of the team, who has really stood out to you so far in practice?
Well, I'm not going to call out any individuals. I think what I will say as a whole, as a training group, I think overall across the board, there's been, when I say across the board, I'm talking, distance, field events, everything. I think everyone can say that this has probably been one of our better years of training. Just able to accomplish some things. A lot less complaining, a little more focused, and just consistency across the board instead of, just some really running really well and others not. But overall, I think there's a lot of room for some exciting performances, for people to step up and to run, better than maybe they thought they were capable of. So, from a coaching point of view, I feel like overall as a team, we're a solid team. And now for us, our where we are right now is, hey, let's see what we got when the gun goes off. There's one thing in practice, but you got to see what kind of competitors we actually have. So, next time we talk, I'll probably have a better idea of exactly, what kind of team we have. On paper, it looks like a solid team, but like I said, you never know. You gotta see them in battle once or twice before you can truly know what you're lining up with.
Well, you do have Adeobi Tabugbo back in UCF colors now for another indoor season. What do you think we could see out of her? She ended up finishing with the bronze medal in the 60-meter hurdles last indoor season. So what did you see out of her as she trained over the course of last outdoor season, and what is she coming in with now
Yeah.
for
Well,
2025?
she comes back for her last full year. So she does have indoor and outdoor, which she didn't have outdoor last year. So definitely looking forward to. She gained a lot of experience this summer, competing at the African Championships and getting some international experience. So she's come back this fall. She's had an excellent fall training. She looks really good. And the goal is to pick up where Renaya left off. We continue to believe that we are a good hurdle school, and we will continue to produce hurdlers. And so she's next up, as well as S.A. Owusa as well. Mm-hmm.
You also have Natalia Madison coming back for her
Mm-hmm.
senior year, the Maltese athlete, second in UCF history in the pentathlon. How have you seen her evolve over the course of this offseason, now going into her last year?
Um, I think probably last year was a bit of a shell shock for all of us. I mean, that indoor pentathlon ended up being, I think, a lot steeper than any of us probably thought. That whole indoor track and field, the 12 conference meet ended up, being a lot more than I think any of us thought on paper would be. So she got the experience of being in such a highly competitive pentathlon that, I hope that she's taken that experience. I know she's done a really good job this fall. I know she's worked on some of her weak areas and definitely training better for the 800 meters. So hopefully, last year, best year, you take your 4 years of ups and downs and your experience, and you go into your last season hoping and wanting to leave a mark or leave a little bit of a legacy. And so I think she's in a good spot. And I'm looking forward to seeing her compete her last year in a night uniform.
You bring in three quite the notable transfers coming in. Jasmine Newberry, who is a sprinter and hurdler, who got 5 medals at the America East Championships combined indoor and outdoor last season. You got distance runner Yvonne Sandoui, who came after getting a bronze in the MEAC Cross Country Championships and has gotten quite a number of medals across the indoor and outdoor MEAC Championships. And of course, Deja Shaw Huckabee, who's a record holder over at North Texas. What has it been like welcoming these three into the team, and what were you kind of looking for in the transfer portal that kind of led you to these players?
You look for people that can provide depth. You look for people that can add to what you already have, or take you to move you up a little bit more than what you already have. Obviously, the Big 12 is a very competitive conference. So you know, looking for sprinters that can cover the 1, 2, and 4. That's what Jasmine Newberry brings. She's not going to be a hurdler. I think we have the hurdles pretty well covered, but I think she brings a lot of depth. It's just going to be a new environment for her competing at this level. So we'll have to see how she transitions to the Big 12 level, but definitely has the ability to be an impact player, as well as Deja, who has trained very well this fall. She's an interesting person, still trying to figure out which direction to run her in, because she can also run the 1, 2, 4. So it's kind of interesting to see what you can do with those type athletes, but they bring versatility. That was one of the things. When you can move up and down, that gives you a lot of options as a coach. So that was one of the things I looked at for the transfer portal. As far as Yvonne, I mean, she's just getting here, but obviously on paper, we believe that she can come in and be an impact player for us, help us improve our DMR. And then obviously, and we'll see what we can do on the track, see if we can, improve her in the 800-mile, whatever. And then in the fall, obviously, cross country will definitely help improve our cross country team. So I think that's what we look for as a staff from when we go to the portal is, can these people help elevate us? And then we still want to bring high school kids in as well, but we're looking for impact players as well to help us immediately as we're still transitioning in the Big 12.
Speaking of cross country, Isabella Richardson ended up missing a little bit at the end of the season there. What's her status going into this indoor season?
Well, we hope to have her back out on the track and ready to go. That's where she's been trending towards, so we'll just have to wait and see.
One other senior that I have on here that I definitely would like to mention, Asia Wilson. I remember seeing her name pop up in the 4x100 competition alongside Renai and everyone for several years now. Now
Yeah.
she comes into her senior season. She's fifth in UCF history in the 60-meter sprint as well. What's it been like for her getting into this senior leadership role, having been amongst the likes of some of UCF's best sprinters over the last few years?
Asia has come into her own. I mean, she came in here as a freshman. She was the only freshman, and she got thrown on that relay as an anchor leg, and we went to the national championship, and we finished seventh, and she was able to hold off the national champion on the anchor leg of that 4x1, and kept our seventh place finish. But so she's had a lot of experience, so that's why you see her on those relays and everything like that. But I think this year I'm hoping for a more impactful year for her as an individual. I think her training has put her in a position where she can be that. She has gotten stronger in the weight room, and that is actually being utilized out on the track. So she's been not much of a talker, but she's been a quiet leader. So looking forward for this to be her Cinderella coming out year, kind of as an individual.
So as far as the coaching staff goes, you bring in a new addition in Brody Honeycutt from Louisiana Monroe, taking over the field events coach position. What does he bring to this coaching staff?
Um, I think he brings a lot of a passion and enthusiasm. I think he's done a really good job of coming in and hitting the ground running, recruiting, and just he adds another, important part to our staff, so that we all have something we can bring to the table. And so I think it's been a very positive impact so far.
So one thing I've noticed looking at the makeup of this team and looking at last year's Big 12, you have, of course, Big 12 teams have a lot of have their athletes in the high jump pole vault or the throwers. Looking at there, we have the jumpers and Ashira and Haley Manners and them, but don't I remember haven't really seen a lot of pole vaulters and high jump, haven't seen that in a little bit. So I just want to ask, like, what's the I guess the strategy in terms of like the event diversity when it comes to that sort of thing, because the Big 12 has quite a lot of athletes in that regard.
Right. Well, obviously that's one of the challenges it does present. We're still not fully staffed. So, we have four coaches, but Coach Honeycutt is in charge of the field events, but when, he's basically got to build that group now. So we did graduate a lot of, high jumpers. We've never had pole vaulters. Big 12 conference is extremely steep in the pole vault. So unless we're going to find some 14-foot vaulters, there's no point of having vaulters that can't score, because it takes, when you don't have a full staff, that's just time away from another event. Obviously, that's part of my charge for Coach Honeycutt to rebuild that event group. We need high jumpers, we need multis. If we find the right throwers, then obviously we'll add those back in as well. But some of this is just about staffing and just not being able to fully um, field a whole team. Takes people to coach people. So.
No, yeah. So how then in that case do you overcome that challenge as a coach working with what you got with what you have?
Yeah, just what you said. You got to work with what you got. You got to maximize where you can get in, and that's what I said. The transfer portal becomes important for us. Can we, picking up Yvonne is important. Picking up people that can maybe come in and be a conference champion or something like that. So it's going to take a little bit to build this program, and it's definitely a challenge, especially as the rules continue to change and things evolve, and you get more scholarships, but you have roster limits and all of that. So it's definitely a changing environment. And I think we don't fully know the impact of all these rules changes and how the landscape's going to go, because you can look up next week and there'll be a new rule in place. And so people can have an extra year of eligibility. You're finding out all this other stuff. You got all these extra scholarships, but then you got roster limits. So it evolves so much day by day. So we will adapt and continue to figure out how we're going to be the most successful in this conference.
Then of course you got Brian Harmon coming back, coaching the distance runners. How has he been settling in now? Because I believe this is year two for him, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken.
I think year two has definitely been a better year. I was very pleased with the improvement for the cross country program. I think he's done a good job of identifying talent and figuring out how to make the most of a difficult situation. Not always having scholarships to put in that event area. We're just in a tough distance conference, so it makes it very hard to put a lot of money in there if you don't know you can actually score. So I feel like, it's trending in the right direction. He's got a good hold of the vision for the program and what we need to do and how we can be impactful in the Big 12 in a highly competitive distance conference. I mean, it's when you look up and two flat is your winning time in the half, and 204 will get you eighth place. That's a different type of conference, and so we have to adapt and figure out how do we maximize and how do we find impactful players that are going to help us put points on the board. So I think he's done a good job in understanding that and putting the pieces in place to move the program forward long term.
Taking a look at the schedule side of things, one thing I took notice of is that the outdoor season does not have the home meets back-to-back weekends this time around, with the outdoor season starting in March 21st with the Black and Gold Invitational, but the Knights Invite not happening until about a little over a month later
Yeah.
in April. I'm just curious how that ended up coming around.
It all has to do with the calendar. There's extra weekends in the year this year, which moved a lot of meets to different weekends, and so that weekend right after the home meet, there's a lot of meets going on, and so finding officials and going head to head against some other meets, I think it was just more impactful. And then having an extra weekend in April, you have a hard time trying to find places to go and places to compete that make it work for everybody. And that actually ended up being exam week, so it just made sense to stay home that weekend.
Mm. One thing I always take interest in the schedule is when you have two different meets going on with different position groups going there. I find that
Yeah.
very unique from a coaching perspective because sometimes part of your team is going one place and then another part is going to another. So how do you end up constructing the schedule with stuff like that and with stuff like that in mind, where different position groups go to different meets?
It usually ends up being it's a separation from the majority of the team from the distance, because distance coaches like to go to certain meets, and they all go to those meets and they all set up races to run fast. And so, you know, um, we might go to Clemson, and it's a great sprint meet, but there's no distance programs there, or maybe they sent their distance to Boston or something like that. So you go there thinking by name those teams are there, but really those event groups are not there. And so then it takes away from the experience for our kids to have the opportunity to run against the better kids in their event area. So some of that scheduling is just set up based on what's needed and what kind of races are needed at that time. So we all kind of look at where is a meet that we can all get something done, because obviously we would like to spend more time together as a team, but sometimes you have to make that decision to separate and send your kids where you can get the best performance.
Well, you got them going to the USF Invitational for the outdoor season on April 11th and 12th, back to the site where you won that AAC championship a couple of years ago. What was it like to kind of see that pop back up on the schedule again?
Yeah, it just, we normally would have been at the University of Miami that weekend. Like I said, the schedule got changed because Florida Relays got pushed back a week. So then that means the Miami meet was pushed back. And so they weren't actually able to have it. So I mean, I like that USF track. It's fast. Yeah, and you're right. We had some very memorable performances on it. So it's just a good opportunity. It's just a couple hours away. So it's a pretty easy trip. We can go down there and hopefully get some things done. It's a nice place to compete, and without too much of a taxing trip at that time of year.
Yeah. One thing that I want to be able to ask all of the coaches, because the news broke not too long ago, John Rothstein reported that the NCAA was considering changing its eligibility rules where athletes would have a full 5 years in the elimination of the red shirt. I just wanted to gain your opinion on that sort of situation, since it's effectively an all sport thing that's being discussed here. So what's it like to kind of see this potentiality now out in the ether?
Anytime you give an opportunity for an athlete to compete a year longer, it's beneficial, especially if they're staying in the same program, because there's a development issue. I think when people come in as a freshman, sometimes that year can go really well, or it could be a struggle because they're adapting to a new environment, so it kind of gives them an extra year to grow in ways that I look at it. It's almost like coming in and you got that freshman year, and it's a year of adaptation, but then you still got 4 more years. So by that year 5, they should be in a pretty good place, because every year that you stay in a program and you stay consistent, there should be some development. So I think it's going to be a positive thing. It's just one of those things that you just gotta you're adapting, and you're as we all we're sitting here waiting, saying, well, how's this actually going to play out, and what does this mean for our kids that are on the team now, and all of those things. So you just wait for those little extra details of it. But overall, I think it'll be a positive thing. Yeah.
So you've got the Big 12 championships February 28th through March 1st, the indoor championship in Lubbock, where you have a little bit of history there yourself, and then you got the outdoor championships going to Lawrence, Kansas on May 15th through the 17th. Now that you've had your first season in the Big 12 to see what these athletes have to offer from a competitive standpoint from your own experience, how does that impact your what you take now into this season with these Big 12 championships?
I think you have to have your kids ready to overperform. I think that's what I realized, last year our kids stepped up but other people stepped up more, there's no room um, for casual mistakes, or there's no room to think you can take it easy and make a final. You're pretty much going to have to run the final as it is a final. I mean, the prelims as a final to ensure that you make it to the final. Because that's one thing I learned about this place. The atmosphere in Lubbock, it was electric last year. It was going crazy, and the performances were going crazy as everybody in the energy was in there. And that was the things that I heard so much from so many coaches. It's never been like this. This is crazy. Like, I remember some of the times that my kids ran, I was like, I can't ever remember having been in the Big 12, these times not making the final, but they didn't make the final last year. So those are the things that you have to take into consideration and understand. Like, you have to have your team ready to go, that they have to understand they've got to run through the roof. No, nothing is safe and nothing is guaranteed. So you have to be a person that can show up on that day and show out. That's just a given.
Man, if it was that crazy last year, imagine what bringing in those four new schools from the Pac-12 will bring into that picture.
Yeah, and see, that's the other thing. It's like you can't really figure out how this is all going to go, because every year something's different. Last year we were the new teams in, and now two teams are out and four teams are in. So it's still going to be a different Big 12 championship than it was last year. And so we're still learning as we go, because this is definitely a different conference.
When you get to the indoor season's obviously going to be starting very soon from the time that we are recording this, but what's the biggest thing you want to see from this team between now and February 28th when you guys go to Lubbock for that Big 12 indoor championship?
I want to see mental growth. I think physically we have the ability. I just want to see what kind of competitors we have, and the ability to get out there, compete. If things don't go well, make adjustments and mentally come back stronger, better, and more prepared the next time. That's the kind of maturity I want to see. We have a lot of new players, but a lot of these new players are transfers. They're upperclassmen, so they should bring some experience and hopefully help these younger athletes make this transition. But that's what I want to see. I want to see the mental toughness and the growth, from performances in January to where we need to be at the end of February.
In that case, like, what do you want to and what do you want to see from this team in terms of like at with this meet number one? Because you got the Robin Cravey Invitational in Louisville, January 10th through 11th. With how you started in fall practice and the start of 2025, what's the biggest thing you want to see now that you're going to your first official meet of the indoor
I
season?
want to see what I see in practice show up in the meet. And I want to see execution of the things that we've been working on. And I can live with that. I'm not really chasing any times at this point in time. I think for me, this is a completely, while I have some returners, there's still a lot of people that this may be their first true indoor season, or this may be their first season. We had a lot of injuries last year. A lot of things happened during the indoor season. It was definitely a struggle. We ended up going to the conference meet. Out of my group, I had almost 15 people in my group, and I only ended up taking 6 to the indoor conference meet. So we had a lot of adversity to overcome. So this year, I just want to see everyone line up and compete, and let's go from there. I don't want it to be anything other than, let's just see where our starting point is. It's just a starting point. And I don't think my expectations are, we better go out here and run this time or that time. I told them I'm looking for execution, and execution of what we've been practicing for the last 4 to 5 months, and then let's see where we're at based on that information, and we'll grow from there.
What's the difference of between the UCF track team you saw last year versus the one you're looking at right now?
Um, I just think there was more people that have been in the program for a long time, so there was consistency. They knew what to expect. They kind of had already been there so many times. So I think we had a lot more experience. I think this time we have um, a good amount of talent. It's just everyone's new to this environment, this team, and this type of training and situation. So there's a lot of unknowns from a coaching point of view. For me, I know as I walk into this first meet, so I have a lot of curious. People ask, "What's the team looking like?" I said, "I'll let you know because I can tell you how practice is going, but practice and competition are two different things." So.
Got it. Well, Renaya, of course, brought a lot of attention to this track and field program, but now in this first year without her, what's the biggest thing you want to say to Night Nation about this team as you prepare to get started?
you know, we're always going to be a group of competitors. We're going to find a way and we will emerge and there'll be, we'll still make an impact somehow, some way. I think there's going to be some people that'll step up that maybe we didn't even know about. So I think that's the exciting part is with track and field. Your first race doesn't define your whole season. I think there's always the opportunity to grow and to expand. And so you never quite really know exactly what you're going to get until, check with me in mid-February. I kind of will be able to tell you, probably exactly where we're at this time. But, it's always interesting this first meet because you're coming back off of Christmas break. They've been away from you for a couple weeks. You haven't had that many days of practice together, and it's the first meet. So there's first meet jitters. Some people are running indoor for their first time. Some people are just, adapting to a new environment and a new place. So you got to get over the hump. And so this first meet is just a kind of an introduction for me to see what kind of team that this is. And we'll grow from there for sure. But I feel good about the team, and I feel that we'll improve. But it's just going to take some time. This is a very very good conference, and you know every time you think someone graduated, someone else pops in there. So you know, um, but I definitely think that the hurdle group should be solid again. I definitely think Adobe is prepared to step up and and keep us relevant in the hurdles. So um, I think there'll be. I think in every event area there should be something. You should have some kind of elite performance. So that's what I'm looking for.
That's awesome, coach. And hey, I mean, you never know what you're gonna get. That's how we ended up finding Renaya ended up popping up on the scene 5 years ago.
Sure did. I tell you, when I signed her, I didn't know she was going to be as good as she was. I thought she'd be good, and then watching her practice, I was like, yeah, yeah, girl's got it. But at the same time, she had to decide when she wanted to be great. And so I can see things in people watching them practice. But ultimately, like I said, as a coach, once that gun goes off, it's really out of your control. It's up to them. So this first meet will give me a good indication of what I'm dealing with. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, coach. I really appreciate your preview in this team with me today, and best of luck out there in Kentucky.
thank you. I appreciate it. Take care.